when I was actually diagnosed with dyslexia, they initially said, you got everything right. And I said, well, I'm not dyslexic then? And they're like, no, you just did everything extremely slowly. So my processing speed was just completely off the bottom of the scale. And they eventually just had to stop the timer, you know. So, and also the short-term memory. So it was only the processing speed and short-term memory that showed up.
Fundamentally, it's thought to be a problem with the language processing area of the brain. So dyslexic people don't process sounds very well, and that obviously has an impact on reading and spelling. But it can also have an impact on time management, organisation, planning, a whole range of tasks. So whilst we've sort of narrowed it down to this memory or processing difficulty, we're now talking about something that is a much bigger syndrome in terms of its impact on people. It's usually inherited. We know from twin studies, we know from other kinds of family studies, and I know from my professional experience that often runs in families.
Well, I found maths very hard, especially in primary school. When I was first learning things, it took me a long time to learn how to spell and how to work out simple sums. So I'd always be left behind. It would always be the kids in the year below who would always be ahead of me, which was always really embarrassing. But I thought, well, I can't go any quicker.
To be dyslexic, you have to be average or better than average intelligence. It's known as a specific learning difficulty, and the specific means that it affects certain particular activities. There's a sort of standard process that an educational psychologist would go through, where you start with measuring general ability. You look at whether their achievements in reading, writing, spelling, maths are inconsistent with their general level of functioning, and then you're looking at factors in the testing like memory processing skills that would explain that.
When I was diagnosed, I did get some help. I mean, one thing specifically was a keyboard to take with me into lectures, and I could type up notes while I was, you know, because I found it a lot easier to type notes in because I was a lot quicker at typing than I was writing by hand. So that was just one of my strengths. So they thought, well, if they give that to me, it would help me. And also in terms of reading, I was given some advice about how to read several words at a time rather than each individual word, because it was tiring me out doing that. And I couldn't read for very long then.
One of the things I do with parents in particular is talk them through what dyslexia is and tell them what they can expect, and just give them simple bits of advice, like if you want your child to enjoy reading, get them to read aloud, short periods at a time, tell them what the big words are, don't overcorrect them, otherwise they will hate reading. Okay, I give them simple advice like expect them to forget, because it's less frustrating than expecting them to remember. You know, reward them for remembering rather than punish them for forgetting. As people get older, the self-understanding becomes increasingly important.
I've got a terrible short-term memory, but a great long-term memory. So in the kind of peaks and troughs thing, I'm really good at certain things and not other things. As soon as I realised that was a strength, I realised that if I learned something very carefully, I'd always remember it. So to take something like creative writing at degree level was quite a big challenge in a way. I think it was slightly easier after I was diagnosed, because I didn't feel like I was normal and very slow. I felt like actually there is something that is causing it, and thus I knew that I could find ways to help myself then. So it was just far more useful knowing that I had dyslexia rather than just struggling and not knowing why. That's the really horrible thing, to just carry on and struggle, you know.
Well, the very reassuring bit is that provided children are properly understood and have the opportunity to develop the skills and alternative techniques they need, that there's no reason they shouldn't pursue whatever they're capable of pursuing. They just have to do things differently. Probably the biggest factor in the long term is the confidence. And by tuning into the way people do things and letting them know that the way they do things is valued, not weird, then they do develop the confidence, and they're able to achieve what they're capable of achieving.
For more information, visit www.nhs.uk.